I did ask a question the other day, seeing what people want to talk about. John said he wanted to talk about communication by generation. Um, Generation by generation, I'm sure they have different topics and ways of doing this. So let's get into it. But just to kind of go back a quick second here, I want everyone who's kind of listening to this now or in the future to think, how many messages do you think you sent yesterday or received? Text, email, Slacks, DMs, probably dozens, if not hundreds, right? So the harder question to attach to this is, of all those messages from yesterday, how many of those were actual conversations? Like, what I mean by that is, how many of those conversations actually, you left those conversations feeling more connected to the other human being? Maybe it was an in-person conversation, maybe it was here on the screens, but that gap between how much we communicate and how much we actually feel connected is kind of where I want to direct this conversation today, because we live in the most connected era in human history, and a lot of that kind of measures up to a little bit of loneliness, we'll say, right? But both things can be true. You can be very close to people, but also very far away. So, kind of want to unpack this a little bit. So, we're gonna separate a few things here so they don't get lumped together. So, first type, we're gonna talk about the low-hanging fruit, digital communication. Email, text, Slack, video calls, social media, voice notes, little thumbs up reactions that everyone gives because they don't really know what else to do or say. These tools are incredible. They're fast, they scale, they work across time zones, and you can kind of search for that stuff later, right? If you need to move in information, digital's going to win, hands out every single time. We all know this. The second is that amazing human connection, right? Face to face, tone of voice, eye contact, body language, a little pause that can say more than the words around it. Actually, I just had a friend a month or so ago pass away who, when I think of him, one of the many things I think about is the cadence in his conversations. We worked with him for a while, I've known him for a lot longer, but when I have conversations with him, it wasn't just word vomit. He wasn't just waiting for his turn to talk. It was very thoughtful. The words that came out, you could tell that they went through several filters of thought process. Sorry, that's a little side talk there. But that sort of human connection, it's slower. It can't scale. You can only talk to one person at a time, maybe two if you're Italian. But the most thing that people miss here is that emotional meaning in any message. It doesn't really live by words. It lives in how they're delivered, the tone, the face, the timing. So think about when you say "fine" or "I'll text you." What does that mean? Like, most people don't really know what that means. Am I fine? Am I furious? We say about the ladies in our lives. They might say they're fine, but they're not. But if we don't dig into it, or you don't see their face or their body language, you have no idea. So, totally different things can happen. And that's where we kind of get into trouble. We take conversations that need that human connection, and we kind of run them through tools built for information transfer. We resolve conflict over text. We deliver hard news over email. We try to build trust through a screen, and then we wonder why shit didn't land. Like, things just didn't work, right? So why does any of this matter, and why should you care? Because communication is I hate to be a nerd here, but communication is the operating system underneath everything else. Every relationship, team, deal, family member, none of it works well without communication working well first. When it breaks, it can be very, very expensive. Financially expensive, emotionally expensive, everything in between. Misunderstandings, eroded trust, doing work again because the communication wasn't there the first time. Everything, just people quietly checking out. But here's something kind of worth sitting with. What most people call people problems, are typically communication problems, right? It's not always the person. Yes, there are some people who are just, you know, but more often than not, it's a communication problem. So if you flip it around and you get this right, clarity saves times. Trust will speed up your decisions. Real connection is what makes people stay with your team, with your customers, with the people you love. That's the return, and that's what's on the table. So the framework I want you to walk away from this is that not all communication is the same depth. Now, there's levels, as we know. Like, I want to climb them with you for a second. So first one, easy stuff, small talk. How's it going? Good, you, etc., etc. Almost no real information changes hands, but it's social lubricant. That's fine. Level 2 here is we'll just kind of call it facts. You know, updates, data, logistics, meetings at 3, report is done. This is our, you know, where most of our digital communication lives live, and honestly, digital stuff handles it really well. Third part here, this is what I'm labeling opinions and ideas. Now you're actually sharing what you think. And there's a little risk here, a little exposure. That's fine. You know, you putting yourself out there, and people might be like, "Hey, vertical grips are for pussies," or, you know, no one shoots, you know, blocks. A lot of people do. And last level here, actually, no, we'll go a little deeper than that. Feelings, right? Let's talk about feelings, guys. No one wants to do that. Yes, we do. But not what you think. But it's not what you think so much as much as how you feel. And this one does take trust. It takes safety, and you don't just go to this level 4 with everyone, unless you're that weirdo in the elevator that kind of offers too much information and no one talks and they just leave. Never been there. Never been that guy. And kind of the last level is that real honest connection. Like the stuff that most of us are trying to get to. You know, fully present, mutual understanding. It is rare to get down to that level. And this is the point of the whole talk here, because this almost never happens through a screen. Almost with an asterisk there. I'm sure people watching this, myself included, have connections with people that have been going on for so long. Like, I've got people on my team that I've never met in person, but been working together for 7, 8, or 9 years. But it's super rare, right? You know, just think about that, okay? But also notice the pattern here. Digital tools, level 1 and 2. They're great for small talk and facts, but they kind of struggle a little bit lower down, level 4 and 5. You know, this is where you want to get to. This is where the relationships are built. So tech, tools, AI, not the enemy in this case here, but the mistake is using the wrong tool for the level you're trying to reach, okay? So I promised myself I wouldn't make a bad joke, but I'm going to anyways, because if you're making it this far in, 8 minutes in, you deserve a little break. I was going to tell you a joke about miscommunication, but I texted it, and no one got it. Get it? Come on. So, bad joke, honestly. So, at the end of the day here, every day we're choosing a medium to communicate in, whether you realize it or not. And the question isn't what's fastest. And the question is kind of what level am I trying to reach? If you're moving information, text it, Slack, email, be efficient. But if you're trying to build trust, repair something, or truly connect with a person, close the laptop, pick up the phone, be in the room, choose to be there in person if possible, and do that on purpose. We'll never be more connected than we are right now. The tools guarantee that. But the connection, the real kind, this is what will always, how do I say this? This will always be a choice you have to make deliberately. Okay? Just make it on purpose. That's it. So, John, I don't know if that was the communication talk you were looking for, but that's where my brain took it.